Hello, folks. We are back. Welcome to the Astro Mingle segment. May I be the first one in this group to introduce you to abstract artist Heather Eck. Hi, Heather. So nice to have you.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
We appreciate you and happy early birthday to you. I just found out backstage you're a Virgo, so the timing is perfect of this show.
It is. I know everything you were saying earlier. I was like, yes, all of this, all of it.
I'm endorsed, yes. And do Virgos just like suddenly become completely over their reality and want to strike?
All the time, I think.
That's called a day.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Like tomorrow's another day I can start over again.
That's good advice right there, actually. She's a 26-degree Virgo, everyone, if you don't know, and a moon in Capricorn, just putting that out there. So let's dive right in. I saw your work. It's really beautiful. I personally love color, so I was a big fan of what I saw. You describe yourself and your work as art that heals, which I find to be super interesting. What do you mean by art that heals?
Yeah, there's something that really uniquely happens with my work in that I kind of consider every piece a commission for somebody that I haven't met yet, because there's something that happens when they see a piece that resonates with them where they kind of go, oh, it's me. I see myself there. And the color or the shape or the form that they're attracted to is offering them something in the way of healing, whether it's a message through the color or the way that they sort of connect to the title of the piece. There's just something there that gives them a sense of healing, sort of like when you listen to music and you feel yourself get emotional over it. There's something in that song for you that's offering you healing or support.
That's an interesting way to put it. And you just brought up something interesting too, that when you're painting a painting that isn't commissioned yet or isn't sold yet, can you kind of feel that person out there in the world waiting for your picture? Can you kind of feel the parent pacing in the hospital wing?
A little bit, yes. So when I first started painting, I was working in my garage and I was painting a piece for somebody. I knew who they were, but as I was doing the work, I felt myself get emotional. I started to cry, and the colors that were coming up were kind of, really different. They weren't pieces of colors I would put together. And that person showed up at my house and she said, I have not stopped crying all the way over here. And I
Whoa.
showed her piece and she said, that's for me. And it was
Wow.
just this really cathartic moment where I felt like I didn't necessarily know that it was for her, but I felt her energy and she clearly felt it too, because she really emotionally connected with the work too.
Are you, I mean, I'm not, I won't say that. First of all, I'm an artist in my own way, but that inspiration when it's coming through you are you are you observing yourself doing it? Is there a subconscious part to it, or is it more conscious?
That's a really good question. I think that there are times where I try to be really conscious of what I'm doing, but sometimes I get in my own way. So I'll try to meditate ahead of time to kind of clear my head. I'll listen to music or something that'll keep my ego out of the process so I can just kind of let whatever comes through come through, and just let the work be of service to whoever needs it.
So it's really channeling, really like channeling as a messenger.
Yeah, I do feel that sometimes there's specific messages or specific symbols, or even the kind of music that I'm listening to is kind of telling me something along the way.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you become a professional artist? Especially now, you seem to be a Gen Xer like me. We were told to be lawyers and accountants. Like, how'd you pull that off?
Okay, so I spent 17 years in corporate as an HR manager.
There you go. Okay, that's what I thought.
And I got to this point where I had a really great, lucrative job. It was wonderful to have that and to say that I had that experience, but I got to the point where I was the sort of tired that no amount of sleep or vacation time was going to fix. It was something in my spirit that wasn't satisfied. And I work with a spiritual teacher, and she always tells us your gifts show up when you're young. Your gifts show up when you're a kid. And we talked a little bit about that. And my gift of art was always there when I was young. I was always sketching and drawing. I was always painting. I was always drawing to music. And when she said that, it was like a light bulb went off in me. And I was like, oh my gosh, all these certifications I have, all these classes I've been chasing, all these things I've been trying to get, none of them really felt like me until art came back in the picture. And then I suddenly felt like this is it. This is what's been missing for me.
I think you're a model Virgo when you say that, by the way, because I meet so many Virgos who have a hard time surrendering to that illogical, impractical, what seems impossible, direction. And yet it's eating them inside that they can't do it at the same time.
Mhm.
And good, bravo to you for being able to make that transition, because then money is always the other big thing that people are terrified about. Did you just go cold turkey and live off of savings, or did you like ramp up slowly on like art, shows? How did you do that?
Yeah, so I started painting again a few years before I left corporate. The funny thing is, I think I was sort of sending mixed messages out to the universe, because on the same day that I got promoted to HR manager, and then also got a pretty good chunk of a raise, I also got offered my first Friday show, which is like a solo show. And so I remember going to bed that night thinking I was so excited about the show, and I was not excited about the promotion. And that was when I think my heart really started to go, I don't think I can live in this space anymore. It's not healthy for me. And so I started to kind of lay tracks to exit. And then when I decided to leave, I'd sort of planned, we make plans and God laughs. I'd sort of planned, I'll stay till the end of the year and then I'll transition out. And my boss said, you're ready to go. You're done. Let's walk down the hall and tell your team. And I was like, oh no. And so
Pushed
it
in the
happened
pool.
like that so fast.
You just let it out that you've been painting, and they're like, "Oh, well, then you're fired." No, it's like,
I
how did that
said,
happen?
this is where I want to go. And they were like, I was planning to say, but I'll work through. And he said, okay, you want to resign? Then we're done. And I was like, okay. So I just kind of went with
Fascinating.
it.
No, so what I find really fascinating about you is that you also consider yourself to be a clairsentient psychic, that you are full on psychic, which is awesome as a Virgo too. Because Virgos tend to be very reality focused, and they don't always pay attention to spirit. That's something that's usually complimenting. When did you first know you had this gift as a psychic?
Yeah. So I don't always kind of classify myself as a psychic. I always feel like that word's reserved for people who can really channel and talk to spirits and all of that, which I think as a clairsentient, which is something that's always been a part of me, is where I really noticed that was being in spaces where I could suddenly feel, not like an empath, not like I would take on the emotion, but I could kind of sense the energy of the space I was about to enter. Or it's like walking into a room and sort of knowing that there's been an argument in there, or kind of
Mm.
picking up on this energy and kind of having that feel, like that clear feeling of what was going on. And then the other aspect of this is that I have something called synesthesia, where when I listen to music or hear words or meet people, I see color around them and I take in information through color. And that's part of how my gift as an artist works too. I sort of paint the color that I see and then also prescribe a color that would be supportive for that person for whatever emotional space they're in, or whatever chakra sort of seems to be in or out of balance, if that makes sense.
Yes, it's actually what I'm really fascinated about. Now, is that term a term you came up with, or is that the name for seeing color? Like,
That's actually a scientific term. There's like 4%, I think, of the population who have some form of synesthesia, where their senses kind of get crossed when they hear music, or even if they taste something, they might taste a color or smell a color or
oh, that's
something where there's
fascinating.
yeah.
You like smell purple or something like that's
Yeah. If I
wow.
smell an essential oil, I'm like, oh, this smells like brown, or this smells like purple, or something, which is, I didn't really have the vocabulary for that early on. And now I recognize, oh, that's how I take in information. That's just part of my day to day. And now I feel like I can explain it a little bit better with that word.
Do you see people's auras as well as we said?
I
True
can a
or
little bit. Yeah, that's starting to develop a bit more, where I can start to see colors sort of take shape around someone, which is really interesting. And I'm hoping that aspect grows. I would love for that to be more.
then it will. That's been my experience. I think, especially as a Virgo, once it is possible, then I see that it becomes more and more. There's Virgos tend to be so like, this is how it is until it isn't. And then suddenly this is how it is. You know? So at some point you were painting, but you merged and fused together creativity, art, and healing. What was that? When was that inspiration? When did you deliberately start creating to heal?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think when that light bulb moment went off and I said, oh, art is where my heart wants to be, it was almost like something just started happening where I would start to see two or three colors for somebody. So the very first painting I did, had a very light green, a very dark green, and a white, and then gold. And I was like, I don't know why, but I see these colors for you. And so what I've learned is that the color that I initially see for someone is sort of the place where they have like the imbalance or like the pain. And then the next color is sort of a prescription for how to help support that. So I've started to pay attention to what color I see and then what color comes next, because that tells me a little bit about where they are and what color would be the most supportive for them, or how they can use that color day to day to invite more of that healing energy into their lives. And I think that's where the healing comes in, because you start to get very intentional with the color. So if I say orange is going to be especially helpful to you, when you go into your closet and you see, the variety of shirts that you have, you might go, oh, what I want to wear orange, because orange is really going to support my sense of creativity and how I express myself. And I want to invite that color. I want that color to minister to me.
Fascinating. I actually have the same. My psychic awareness seems to work similar in the sense that when I'm doing a reading for a client, the first thing that comes across is the pain, where they're struggling. And it's almost like I'm feeling some of it and I want to relieve it. And I'm looking for the solution to relieve that pain right away.
Wow. Yeah.
And so is this what a color reading is, what you just described? Because you have something in your site called a color reading. Is that what you just said just now?
Yeah, that's one of the things I love to do is I kind of call it like a spirit portrait for somebody, where I will meditate on their picture or in person, and I will see the color for them, and then I'll create a painting that, as I'm doing the painting, I'm taking notes of what is the first color that I saw, what chakra does it align with, what are the words that are coming through, what music am I listening to, what are the symbols that I see that sort of take shape initially in the painting, and then where does it start and where does it end? And then I'll sit with someone on a Zoom session and say, okay, here's what I got. Does this make sense for you? This is where I feel like there might be some challenges. This is what I think might be helpful. And we have a conversation. And I think what is really nice about that process is that I'm able to really connect with somebody. And then what I love is that when I show them their portrait, they kind of just go, oh, and it's almost like their soul is like, yes, that one's mine. And I just love the way that they sort of accept that this piece was made for them intentionally with love and intentionally with healing. And it offers them, a new way to associate with color that they may not have ever thought of, or with art the same way.
Totally. I mean, it brings a whole nother dimension to artwork and such a personalization to artwork. Do you find that sometimes, because you're pulling up pain memories and pain body and also solution, do clients sometimes pushing away? Like, do they resist, or do they immediately fall in love? Do you see a little catharsis go on in front of you on that Zoom meeting?
I do. Yeah. It's interesting that you asked that, because I had a friend come over and I had a series of pieces, and I said, one of these is yours. Which one is it? Because I kind of wanted to see which one would she gravitate towards. And she literally picked up and held every single piece except the one that was hers.
Oh, how funny.
And I said, wait a minute, you missed that one. She was like, oh, there's something about it. It just, I don't want to touch. I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk about it. I want to look at it. I was like, that one's yours. And here's why it's yours. And she was like, okay, fine. I
Oh,
get
how
it.
cute.
And so then she took it, and she still has it. And she's, it was something that offered her a different way to see herself, where there may not have been a lot of that like self-acceptance or self-love, where this piece was kind of saying like, you're perfect just the way you are. And I think that in the moment it wasn't quite ready to go there.
Yeah. And that's also proof positive. What people ignore in a reading is often what they needed to hear. I've noticed. So I always tell them, listen back to the reading. Whatever you ignored, you're in denial about. And that's always a process of, I think, the mediumship of connecting to people and their spirit and their time. So have you decoded sort of a universal meaning of the different colors and the message of different colors? It sounds like you're so in touch with them. They're like your friends. And is it a language that you've developed with them?
Yes, that's a really great question. I think I'm still developing that language with them. I think what I'm noticing is that, like that big box of crayons with all the different shades, is that it's not, I think initially I thought it's just the chakras, it's just the red, orange, yellow, green. but it's shades within those colors that tell me even more about the person. And so I'm starting to detect the shade, and then being able to connect to the prescriptive color that would be the most helpful using that shade. And that's something that I'm working on. When you talked about the Virgos needing to kind of develop their spiritual practice of faith and kind of really moving into that, that's definitely something I've been thinking about, is how do I really create this disciplined practice to grow that aspect of my gift even more, because that's where I think there's a lot more that I can tune into with somebody to offer that to them.
And perhaps literally a language between you and the angels, like a common, like universal language, like numbers and whatnot. But
Yeah.
have you found, does it fall into categories like red is anger and blue is sadness? And does it play out that way, that in those ways that we tend to cliche colors, or is it more complex or surprising?
Yeah, I think they're definitely so red for somebody, I think more so they connect to the themes of the chakras, and that very initial color I see will tell me, okay, red might mean that you are feeling unstable, or you might be worried about your money, or you might not have the kinds of relationships that you're looking for. You might just feel like you're not on solid ground. And so then I might say, okay, well, for you, then I would do something with like white. White is about the spirit, it's about connection. So it's about developing your consciousness to and connectivity to a higher power that will help you feel more grounded, that will help you feel more stable. And that, again, that's where sort of that healing and balancing and support comes in.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah, I love working with the chakras too. And in our service, we also prescribe a color of the day just to sort of complement the energies. So I'm really drawn to your work and what you're doing. I think it's amazing. Have you
Thank
had any anecdotes like from after a while of people with a painting that's come to help them overcome something?
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, I think, there are people in my world who have collected a bunch of my work because each piece is sort of a snapshot in time. And so there's one where I sort of did a piece for someone, and the shape that came through kind of looked like a dog. And she had recently lost her pets. And
Oh, wow.
within a few months of this portrait coming into her awareness, she adopted a new dog. So it was almost like there was something about that piece that was sort of telling her some new, fur baby energy was coming into her world. And I didn't really know it at the time until afterwards, and then kind of connected the dots and said, oh, that was a dog. Okay, now I understand what that was sort of telling me. So I'm still learning, and I'm still kind of trying to piece together different messages and different things that have come through where it's helped the person in that way get some clarity.
And slowly decoding how the whole language really works for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of learning as you go. Is there
Yeah.
a sort of an atypical kind of client that stumbles into your studio? Are you attracting people who are mourning, or attracting people who are pregnant? Like, is there a theme that you've noticed with the type of clients you attract?
Oh, that's a really good one. I think that for a little while, I was doing a lot of portraits for people who had passed away.
Oh, wow.
Um, and so doing a spirit portrait for somebody who they just wanted to honor in a different way. And I think that the portrait helps with healing a bit, because they're not necessarily needing to look at a picture of the person, which can just really pull at your heart, but more so look at something that's representative of the person or symbolic of them. But I think for the most part, I tend to attract people who are sort of at the beginning of their spiritual journey, where they're sort of looking for something to tether to, and they're kind of exploring, um, you know, like for me, I started with crystals and I loved crystals, and then I moved on to cards, and then I moved on all kinds of things, where I kind of get them at that start, or they're in the middle of some sort of transition where they're trying to move from one phase of life to another, and they're looking for something to kind of help them feel a bit more grounded in themselves.
So it sounds like, I mean, if I can put words in your mouth, that people who benefit from your work are maybe people who are in a transition, they're seeking something higher. I mean, what is your prescription for how your work can help others?
Yeah, I think that when I started working with color, I really started to become more self-aware. I pay attention to where colors show up around me, what colors am I wearing, what colors appear frequently in my home or my office, and how are those colors influencing me, whether I'm aware of it or not. And so I think that that's a really good way for people to sort of tune into Oh my gosh, I keep seeing, for example, before we moved from New Jersey to North Carolina, I kept seeing the color yellow everywhere. And then I started to pull yellow into my home and I started to wear yellow. And yellow is all about your sense of personal power and your confidence. And it was really helping me to make an identity shift from who I was in New Jersey to North Carolina. And as we moved and I made that shift, that color started to dissipate. And so blue started to come in. And so I really kind of pay attention to what those colors are signaling to me, and how to use it intentionally once I get, where I'm going.
So does a person's favorite color say something about them in your experience?
I think it does. Yeah. I think that the colors that we are attracted to are ministering to us somehow. So if I am really wearing a lot of magenta, that magenta is really helping me stay focused on optimism, joy, and just the happiness of being alive. I think if you are, if I find myself wearing a lot of black, then I know I'm sort of in protective mode. And so I think that whatever color you really love, it's offering you something. And when you kind of understand what that is, you kind of go, oh, all right, I see what it's trying to tell me here, or I see how I'm using it currently. Same
Yeah,
for if you don't like it.
even if you don't like it, yeah. And have you noticed any trends too with like what a client is wearing versus what you're painting for them? Like, because a lot of times I think people wear colors that make them look good,
Mhm.
and that they like, and it's sort of probably speaks to their chakra or what they're going through. Have you seen that people's color taste change?
Oh yeah, I definitely think so. I worked with somebody for a while when I was in corporate where really funny, I had noticed she was wearing a lot of yellow and I just kind of said to her, any chance you're thinking about making a change, or are you considering doing something different? Like something about an identity shift around her. And she was like, 100%. Why do you ask? And I said, it's because you're wearing so much yellow. I can see that. And so she's told me, every time I pull something out of my closet, I think about you because I'm wondering, what does this color mean for me? Or if I want to wear that yellow today, what is that saying about me? Or if I show up tonight wearing black, you're going to know I'm protecting myself a little bit. So it's kind of
Interesting.
funny. Yeah.
Yeah, it does speak. In that context, I find it interesting. Like I don't know if you've been out to like model homes and architecture, but it's like everything has gone gray in the new
Hmm.
age, like gray carpeting, gray walls, gray kitchen, gray black and white. Like somehow we've washed the color out of our homes. Have you noticed that?
100%. Yes. It's so interesting to me. I also, so gray is sort of that, it's a black and white color. It's very neutral, but gray can often symbolize lack. And so when I see gray sort of kind of permeating throughout, I'm like, what are we lacking collectively that we're inviting so much gray into our homes that we're wanting to kind of stay in that place of lack? And it could be lack of compassion, lack of love, lack of stability. It just kind of indicates that there's this kind of trend happening. And I noticed too with car colors recently, they've lost their
Mm.
sparkle. And there have been these very flat kind of tonal colors. And I was, kind of thinking, what's happening here? There's something happening around this color for cars and why people are choosing those over something else. And so, I mean, there's all sorts of different directions you can go in, but noticing that stuff is huge because I don't think people really paid much attention to it sometimes, but it does kind of speak to a collective thing.
And the culture. I
Yeah.
mean, we're Gen X babies. Everything was beige growing up in my house. Beige this and beige that. Like all sorts of browns and like navy green. Like,
Mhm.
then you go like to the 50s and like hot pink bathrooms. It was like, what were we thinking in
What
the
was going
50s?
on? Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. But now it's really, really just bland and gray. It's what it's become. So
Mhm.
I'm worried. And I'll even see the artwork on their walls will also be blacks and whites with just like one splash, like one accent color. And
Yeah.
I'm like, there's got to be more to your soul than this one splash of orange, It's
Right.
interesting to
Right.
see. It's a fascinating component. Well, your
Hmm.
work sounds just amazing. Now, a person can commission how does it work to be your customer? Do we come in and we ask for you to, there's obviously things that you have already for sale that we might be gravitating towards in your gallery that's on your website.
Hmm.
But how does it work? Can I have something, you can do a color reading for me and paint something?
Absolutely. So I kind of have the spirit portrait side, which is where I'll do that individual painting for you. And then I also sort of have my work categorized by color based on how do you want to feel. So I want to kind of invite people to think about, I want to feel more creative. Well, then you might want to invite orange into your life, or I want to feel more empowered. So you might want to invite yellow into your life. And so I think what I'm trying to allow people to do is to connect the emotion or the energy that they want to manifest or cultivate and invite that color in, because that color will help minister to you too. So if you're looking for, something for your home or office and you're like, I'm not quite sure where to go, then I can sit down and do a consult with you, and we can talk about your colors and what you're drawn to and why, and then create a custom piece for you that way too.
I love it, especially because our community is very concerned about manifestation and coming through, like working through our stuff and our issues. So to have a reminder, that's one of the things I'm always saying, put something on your phone, something that reminds you, continually reminds your intentions and whatnot. A lot of people base it, they want to make more money or whatever. And I find even myself, like whenever I wear red, I get compliments all day. You look great in red. It's like, you can see that color has a real influence. So to intentionally put certain splashes of color in front of yourself, I think
Mhm.
it's beautiful and it's effective and it's powerful. It's a great way to go.
Yeah, it's
So
awesome.
tell us, I think we put your website up already, but please just tell us how to get in touch with you. And you have some sort of a class coming up or something that's for the public, that's free for the public. Tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a 2-day healing art retreat coming up on September 26th and 28th. It's at noon Eastern time. And that's where we'll go through the art of letting go and the art of manifestation. So being able to sort of intentionally use art in your life to let go of things that no longer serve you, and then create things that you want to have relationship with. And throughout that healing art retreat, I'll be talking about colors and how you're using colors. Because a lot of times people will pick up a crayon or a marker or paint, and they are not quite sure why. And so I like to be able to educate about what that color might mean for them and how they're using it. And so that's happening, which I'm really excited about. And then you can find me at heathereck.com or on Instagram at heathereckartist.
Beautiful. When did you come up with this idea for the class? Because, you just watched my show. That's exactly what the world is doing right now. Like letting go of the past and embracing the new.
Which is awesome. I feel like it's all one big message.
It's turned out to be absolutely perfect. Well, I really hope that people take advantage and take your free class. It's very generous of you. I assume it'll be through Zoom or something.
Yep, it will. And if you go to my website, or actually if you go to the link tree in my Instagram, you can go right to the link to register for that course, and I'll send you all the Zoom info and all of that stuff.
Okay, terrific. And your artwork is beautiful. I'm going to be purchasing something myself or having a portrait done, just so you know. So I encourage everyone to check
Awesome.
out her work. It's beautiful. Thank you for being here, Heather. I've been watching the comments. People love what you're doing, and so many people are interested. So we'll have to hear
Awesome.
back from you at some point in the future to see how things are going.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me tonight. It's been an absolute treat, and I really, really love watching your show. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. And please, if you don't mind, stay backstage. Noelle wants to say hi to you. We'll be wrapping up the show here in just a moment.
Okay, awesome. Thank
Okay,
you.
great. Thank you.
Take care.
All right. That was awesome. Boy, that was actually the first time I met her. So this is super fun when that can happen, to meet someone that you gravitate with so well and just resonates. Just as a wrap up here, my friends, the magic will unfold at SiriusJoy. If you're looking for magic to unfold in your life, then come be a part of our loving community. We have some amazing practitioners, Robbie Hunt with metaphysics, Heather Exposito focusing on individual signs, and more to come with her. We have Kristen Ryder, who is doing sound healing, and the amazing Devin Dewar, who was my special guest last week in Astro Mingle, helping channeling the angels. This is a whole practitioner team. We call ourselves the Lights of the Round Table. We consider SiriusJoy to be the modern Camelot, and you can be a part of our family for just $3.99. Give it a try. Cancel anytime, and people do cancel, and we do honor that without any problems. This week, we have live currently on the site. We have our mega monthlies, Lights of the Round Table. We just recorded this. It's about 2 hours. We go through the whole month of September, where we're going to, where the magic unfolds, as I said, rewriting history. So that is available right off of the main lobby. If you come in and just hit Mega Monthlies, you'll be taken to not only the Mega Monthly of the month for the whole world, but there's actually individual monthly reports for all 12 signs. Listen to your sun sign, your rising sign, your moon sign, and all of your friends and family. It's a great resource that guides you through the month. We also have a weekly live show, just like this one for our subscribers, called the Soul Support Group. And this week, we're doing our Angel Intervention series. This is starring Devin Dewar. She was live with us last week on Astro Mingle. She's an angel intuitive. It is co-hosted by Heather Exposito. And these two girls bring on 3 of our subscribers, and they get an angel reading based on a dilemma. So you hit sort of a wall. You don't know what to do. Call the angels. Devin and Heather are there to help. That will be live at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific on SiriusJoy. Now, some people ask, what can I do for you, Chris? You know what? You can share. Share us with your friends and family. Sharing is caring. It's the best thing you can do for us. Just to tell people about Namaste today, introduce them to our services, or have them follow us on social media, because we have a daily zodiac weather that we put out. Some people want to donate, and I'm grateful for donations. I used to say no to it, and then I was like, what am I doing? Some people want to help in donations. So if you want to donate, we do humbly accept donations at paypal.me/Sensei Christopher. Now, the best way to stay in touch with us, if you're not ready to subscribe yet, is our Facebook group, the SiriusJoy Club on Facebook. You can get there by going to SiriusJoy.club. And we actually encourage you to share your birthday with us. So if you're in the club and it's your birthday, tell us it's your birthday so we can all wish you a happy birthday. Let the Leo example be the way to go. If you're in the club, share your birthday so we can all say happy birthday to you. We also open that club up to any other light workers like Heather Eck just now. If you serve the light worker community, you can advertise your products for free in the club, no problem. Now, if you want to know how to follow us on social media, we do have a LinkedIn, a link tree at SiriusJoy.social. SiriusJoy.social. It's access to all of our social media, as well as an interview I was a guest on and some other stuff there. So if you want to do some background digging on us, it's all there. You can join our email list too. We have a marketing email that goes out every week that gives you all the things going on, both in the free social media and also things going on at SiriusJoy. And lastly, but never least, some people would rather listen than watch. And I'm so honored to be with you on your walk or your hike or whatever you are doing with me in the background. We do have an audio version of this podcast available at Spotify, Stitcher, and on Apple Podcasts. Just search Namaste Today, and you'll see my mugshot come on up. Well, friends, it has been an amazing show. I'm loving how tight this is getting. Special thanks to all of our SiriusJoy crew. We're grateful for you. Special thanks to Noelle Way, and also special thanks to Sarah Lyman, our director. We'll be back 1 week from now. Face that reality, friends. Let that Kazemi take you to new heights. And until next week, remember, I love you. Live, love, be.